we come to the daily work, practices that makes framework real. So let's do a little bit of callback and reframe. So callback, we look at where we were, where we'll come from, and then we reframe. This is the third video in this series. So if you have not looked at the others yet to really get a better understanding, go back to video number 1 and then start here. Or you can start this video. This is where you're inclined to frameworks that actually the practices that makes the frameworks real. In the first one, I told you what happened: the collapse, the loss, the moment the floor disappeared and something underneath it became visible. In the second one, I gave you 4 frameworks: the mirror law, the void phase, energy economy, identity layers. Conceptual architecture that makes sense of what I was going through when nothing else did. This video is different from both of those because this one isn't about understanding, it is about doing. And I want to be honest with you up front about what that means, because there's a version of this video I could make that would feel really good to watch. Beautifully structured morning routines, aesthetic journaling setups, a clean photogenic system that makes the work look as appealing as the idea of the works. That's not this. What I'm going to share with you are practices that are largely invisible, unglamorous. Some of them are uncomfortable in a way that doesn't resolve quickly. None of them will make your life look better from the outside in the short term. What they will do, if you actually do them, is change the quality of your relationship with your own interior, which changes everything else slowly, honestly, without performance. If you came here because something in the last 2 videos resonated at a level you couldn't fully explain, keep watching. What practice actually is? Before the practices, I need to establish something that most people in this space get wrong. Practice is not habits. Habits are automated. That's their value. You move the decision from the equation and the behavior happens on its own. Habits are efficient. Practice is the opposite of automated. Practice requires your presence every single time. The moment it becomes something you do without being there for it, it stops being practice and becomes ritual, which is fine, but it's not the same thing. The distinction matters because a lot of people build elaborate spiritual habits. They meditate every morning, they journal every night, they do breath work, and wonder why nothing is shifting. And the answer almost always, you are doing the motions without bringing yourself to it. The Zen tradition has a phrase for this: Samu, work practice. The idea that washing the dishes can be more profound than meditation if you're actually there for the washing of the dishes, fully present, not managing the experience, not performing mindfulness, actually there. So when I walk you through these 6 practices, the technical instruction is the smallest part. What matters more is the orientation you bring to them. Curiosity over judgment, honesty over comfort, presence over performance. These 3 things Bring those, and almost anything becomes practicely. Leave these behind, and even in the most sophisticated system, become just another thing you do. So let's look at practice number 1, honest inventory. The first practice is the one that makes all others possible. I call it honest inventory. And it sounds straightforward until you actually try it. Here's the practice. Once a week, same day, same time if possible. You sit down with a blank page and you answer 3 questions. Not the question which apply to you, the question that actually do. Question 1, where am I being dishonest? Not morally dishonest necessarily. Where are you performing? Where are you saying yes when your body is saying no? Where are you maintaining a version of yourself that doesn't match what you actually think, feel, or want? Most of us are carrying a significant weight of small dishonesties, social ones, professional ones, the ones we tell ourselves. The inventory surfaces that. Question 2, what am I avoiding and why? Not what you're procrastinating on, what you're structurally keeping out of your awareness. The conversation you haven't had, the decision you're deferring indefinitely, the feeling you're managing around instead of through. Question 3, what do I actually know right now that I'm not acting on? This is the hardest one because most of us know more than we're willing to admit we know. We know when something isn't working. We know when we're in the wrong place. We know when the story we're telling ourselves is a comfort rather than a truth. The inventory doesn't require you to act on what services, not immediately. It just requires you to see it clearly and write it down. The act of writing is important. Thoughts in the head can be managed, rationalized, reframed. Words on a paper are harder to argue with. The rule: what goes in inventory stays honest. No self-improvement framing. No silver linings. No, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Just the clear-eyed account of what actually true for you this week. Practice number 2, pattern tracking. The second practice builds directly on the mirror law from the last video. Pattern tracking is exactly what it sounds like. You track the recurring patterns in your life with the same rigor you track anything else you were trying to understand. Here's how it works. Keep a running document, not a journal, something more sparse than that, where you note recurrent events, dynamics, and reaction. Not every day. Just when something happens that feels familiar, that specific quality of here we are again. The same argument structure in a new relationship, the same moment of self-sabotage at the same point in a project, the same physical sensation, tightness in the chest, a kind of hollowing out in situation that looks different on the surface but feels identical underneath. You're not analyzing as you go. You're just noting date, this brief description, the familiar quality of it. After 90 days, you read back through it. What you'll find, and this is almost universal for people who do this consistently, is a small number of patterns running underneath what looks like a large variety of experiences. Usually, these 5 core dynamics that express themselves across every domain of your life. The same fear in the relationship and the career and the creative world and the friendship. Different costume, same structure. Once you see the pattern, really see it, not just intellectually recognize it. You have a choice you didn't have before. You can't choose differently what you can't see clearly. The tracking makes it visible. The practice in a one-liner. Note the familiar feeling, not the surface event. The patterns is in the feeling, not the circumstance. Practice number 3, deliberate stillness. The third practice is the one most people think they're already doing. They're not. Deliberate stillness is not the kind of meditation that most people practice, which is structured technique for managing mental activity. Deliberate stillness is simpler and harder than that. You sit, no techniques, no anchor, no counting breaths or scanning the body or returning to present moments. You simply stop managing your inner experience and let whatever is actually there be there. Fully. No resistance, no redirection, no timer you're waiting for. Most people last about 90 seconds before reaching for their phone. And that's information. Because what you're fleeing in those 90 seconds, the discomfort, the restlessness, the thoughts that start surfacing when you stop suppressing them, that's your actual interior, not the managed version, the real one. The void phrase framework from the last video only becomes accessible if you can tolerate stillness, because the void is still. It doesn't perform. It doesn't entertain. It just sits there asking you to do the same. Start with 10 minutes. Sit somewhere without visual stimulation. No music, no candles or focal point. Just you and what's actually present. Don't try to make it spiritual. Don't try to make it anything. The only instruction is don't leave. Don't pick up your phone. Don't start planning dinner. Stay with whatever arises. Over time, weeks, not days, you'll notice the same quality of what arises changes. The anxious surface noise settles. Underneath, it is something slower and more honest. That's where the real information lives. The one rule, whatever comes up during deliberate stillness, don't analyze it during that session. Write one sentence after just what was there, then let it go. Practice number 4, energy auditing. I introduced the energy economy framework in the last video. The idea that everything in your life is either building or depleting your fundamental capacity. The fourth practice is what makes that frameworks operational. Energy auditing is a weekly review separate from the honest inventory, where you look at one specific question. Where did my energy actually go this week versus where I intended it to go? Most people discover a significant gap. You intended to spend your primary energy on the work that matters most to you, yet what actually happened is you spent it on the inbox, the obligations you couldn't say no to, the recovery from the interaction left you hollowed out, and the low-grade anxiety about 3 things you're not addressing. The audit isn't about optimizing your schedule. It's about seeing it clearly and without judgment, the actual flow of your life force versus the intended flow. Over time, the audit starts to reveal something deeper than time management. It shows you what you actually value versus what you say you value. Those two things are frequently not the same. What you value is where your energy actually goes, not where you wish it went, not where you think it should go. If your energy is consistently flowing toward things that deplete you, that's not a scheduling problem. That's a value clarification problem, or a boundary problem, or an identity problem. The audit surface which one it is. The format. 2 columns, intended versus actual. 1 row per significant energy. Expenditure. Review weekly. Look for the gap. Don't judge the gap. Understand it. Let's do some practice. Go to practice number 5, the layer work. Practice number 5, layer work. The 5th practice is the most confrontational one in this list. I call it layer work. It draws directly from the identity layers framework, the idea that what we experience as self is actually a series of increasingly deep layers, and that most of us have fused with the outer ones. Here's the practice. Once a month, not more frequent than that, and this needs time to process. You sit with a single question for an external period, not 5 minutes, at least an hour. With paper, the question is, who am I without this? And you apply to one specific layer at a time. Who am I without my professional identity, without the title, the function, the expertise I'm known for? Who am I without the relationship, without the role I play in it? The provider, the caretaker, the one who holds things together. Who am I without the story I tell myself about my past, without the narrative of how I got here and what it means? Who am I without the options, without my taste, my aesthetics, my carefully cultivated sense of what I'm like? You're not trying to answer the question. You're trying to feel the discomfort of not knowing, because the discomfort is the fusion made visible. The places where the question feels unbearable are the places where you're most completely confused. A layer with the self underneath it. This practice doesn't produce clarity immediately. It produces instability first, a loosening of what felt fixed. That loosening is the point. Because you cannot rebuild identity on a more honest foundation while you're still completely fused with the current one. Layer work creates the necessary space between you and your constructs, enough space to see them clearly, enough space to ask, is this mine or did I inherit it? Does this still fit, or am I maintaining it out of habit? Now, one caution. Do not do this practice during acute crisis. It requires a baseline of stability to be useful. If you're in the void space, stay with deliberate stillness instead. Layer work is for the reconstruction phase, when the collapse has completed and you're choosing what to rebuild. Practice number 6. Honest speech. The 6th practice is the one that lives entirely in daily life. No dedicated time required, no setup, no journaling. It is also the one most people find most difficult. Honest speech is a practice of progressive alignment between what you actually think and feel and what you say out loud. Not brutal honesty, not radical transparency, not saying everything that crosses your mind. Something more specific than that. It is the practice of noticing in real time, in actual conversations, the moments when you're about to say something that isn't true for you and choosing differently. The social agreement that isn't an agreement, the enthusiasm you're performing, the I'm fine when you're not, the yes that should be a no, the option that you're suppressing because the room seemed to have already decided. Most of us are so habituated to social performance that we don't even notice we're doing it. The misalignment between interior and exterior becomes background noise. This practice is about turning up the volume up on that background noise, catching it, making a different choice. Not dramatically, not with a speech, just the same smaller, truer thing instead of the larger performed thing. Over time, honest speech changes your relationship, your professional life, and your relationship with your own interior in ways that are difficult to predict because the people in your life begin responding to who you actually are rather than who you've been performing. And that's either clarifying or it's uncomfortable. Sometimes both, but it's always more real. The practice in one line. Before you speak, notice whether what you're about to say is true. If it isn't, pause. Find what is, say that instead. Number 9, the rhythm and close. 6 practices. Let me give it a rhythm, the actual cadence that makes this sustainable rather than overwhelming. Daily, honest speech. This lives inside your regular life. No extra time, just presence and a choice to align. Deliberate stillness. 10 minutes. Same time each day if possible. Before the day starts, if you can manage it. Before the noise begins. Weekly. Honest inventory. 1 sitting. 3 questions. 20 to 30 minutes, same day each week. Energy audit. 2 columns. 1 honest look. 15 minutes at the end of the week. Monthly. Layer work. 1 question, 1 layer, 1 hour minimum, once a month only. This one needs recovery time. Ongoing. Pattern tracking. Not scheduled, just to note when the familiar feeling shows up. 30 seconds. Review at 90 days. That's the full system. On a heavy week, it takes about an hour of dedicated time. The rest lives in your regular time. I want to close this series with something honest. I've given you 3 videos, a story, a set of frameworks, and now a set of practices. And I'm aware that some of you, the watching has been easier than the doing will be. That's not criticism. It's just true. Understanding these ideas is genuinely useful, but it's not the same as doing the work. And the work is uncomfortable in a way that these videos aren't. The honest inventory will surface things you've been avoiding. The deliberate stillness will make you want to reach your phone within 90 seconds. The layer work will destabilize things you've built your sense of self around. That's not a side effect. That's the mechanism. The framework only becomes real through the friction of application. There's no shortcut around that. What I can tell you is this: the version of yourself that exists on the other side of this work, the one who's done the inventory honestly, tracked the pattern long enough to see them clearly, sat in the stillness long enough to hear what's actually there, that version of you makes decisions from a different place entirely. Not from fear dressed up as a strategy, not from conditioning mistaken for preference, not from the outermost layer pretending to be the whole self, but from something quieter, more stable, less impressive looking from the outside and far more solid from the inside. That's what this is for. Not the performance of a spiritual life, the actual one.